equation from the graph. I will ask you one of these questions on a test. So if we have, let's start with the function here. If I have 2x, not x squared, that's just x, sorry. 2x minus 4 over x minus 1. And I asked you to sketch this. What's the first thing you would do? Factor out a 2 from the top. Minus 2, that is minus 1. Okay, nothing cancels, right? Everybody agree with that? Okay, so if nothing cancels, we can determine the vertical asymptote. How do you figure out the vertical asymptote? Yeah, what makes the denominator 0? In this case, x is equal to 1. Horizontal asymptote. How do you find the horizontal asymptote? Remember, those 3 rules. If the degrees are the same, right? The degrees are the same, it's 1. So it's 2 over 1, the coefficients, or just 2. So there's your horizontal. X-intercept. How do you find the x-intercept? Make y 0, so really you're just looking at the top. In this case, it'll be x equals 2. Is that okay? All right, we're going to quickly sketch this. So vertical asymptote 1, horizontal asymptote 2, 1, x equals 2. X-intercept at 2, right there. So there's your graph. Is that okay? That's just what you've been doing, okay? All right. What does that tell you on the graph? What did that piece of x minus 2 tell us? You just told me. X-intercept, right? What did this tell you? Vertical asymptote. And what did that tell us? I guess I could point at both leading coefficients, but what did they tell us? Horizontal asymptote. Okay. If you know what the graph is, and you know the vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote, and the x-intercept, you can work backwards and create all of that. Okay? And what's a POD? How do you know if you have a POD? What happens when you factor everything? Stuff will cancel. So if you have a POD, you know that it's a factor that cancels. So we can create an equation from a graph. So I'm just going to make up a graph here. So here's our graph. We'll have a vertical asymptote, so bad vertical asymptote at -2 and 1. We'll have a whole at -1. We will have, where do we want our horizontal? 0. And we'll have our x-intercept at 4. Here's our graph. A little shaky hand there, but that's okay. Okay. What is the equation of this graph? Do it in f of x is equal to. So we're going to write it all in factored form. We're not going to write unfactored form because I don't want to. All right. What am I vertical asymptote? Yeah, that does go through the horizontal asymptote. But when it's given like this, it doesn't matter. I'm not asking you. I've given you the graph. Okay, so you just have to generate the equation in factored form. I'm not going to ask you to multiply it out. Okay, vertical asymptotes are what? What are the vertical asymptotes? -2 and 1. So what factors would give me vertical asymptotes of -2 and 1, i.e. what should be in the brackets? Where do they go? There you go. X plus 2, x minus 1. Those are my vertical asymptotes. They always come from the denominator, and they're always in factored form like that. Now, what is my POD? What's my POD? What's my x value for my POD? -1. So what does that mean? And the bottom, right? Because for it to be a POD, they have to cancel. So you have to have x plus 1 there. Now let's write it over here. X plus 1 there. What is left? What other piece of information do I have that I need to incorporate? The x-intercept, which is +4. So where does that go? On the top. I write x minus 4. And you're done. That's it. I mean, you could multiply it out if you want. I'm not going to ask you to do that on the test. Just write it in factored form like that. Okay? Now, does it match though? What's the degree of the numerator? 2. What's the degree of the denominator? 3. If the denominator has a higher degree than the numerator, what's the horizontal asymptote? 0. We have a horizontal asymptote of 0, so we're good. Okay? I'm gonna do one more, and then we're done. Are there any questions about that? X-intercepts go up top. PODs, you just got to have the same factor top and bottom so that they cancel. Vertical asymptotes go in the denominator. All right, let's do one more, and then we're done. So y is equal to 2 is our horizontal. -2, +3, 0, 2. Oops. POD at -4. We'll have a second POD at -1. All right. you want us working on your own for a sec? All right. What's up, Mr. Late? Doing a little rational functions. POD, point of discontinuity. No, point of inflection, come on. Oh my gosh. Good time. I believe you. That's next unit. Yeah. Start that tomorrow. Well, not trig identities, but we start trig tomorrow. What is that? They're not going to understand it if it's a trig identity joke.
You say to the person you're trying to track, if you were sine squared and I was cosine squared,
Oh my gosh.
together we would make one.
Pythagorean theorem, written with trig. It's a bad pickup line. They don't know that yet. They will. Thanks. Is this right? That's a loaded question. Who got this? Okay. Is it right? Why? What? Yes, the horizontal asymptote has to be a 2. And these are all just 1s, right? So how do I make it 2? Throw a 2 in front. Boom! Now you're done. Okay? That's it. So